Okay, well, welcome everyone to the Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse. Gosh, it's early, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So, fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, our room this morning is: Are your staff a flight risk? 11 things that leaders do that make employees quit. And I do actually have 11 things. So let me introduce myself. My name is Linda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert, and I've been hanging around public practice now for just on 30 years. Over that time, I've owned a couple of accounting practices myself. I've been a practice manager, and now what I do is I help accountants who already do advisory to transition that into a consistent and ongoing revenue stream. So that's what I enjoy doing from day to day. And of course, I have my amazing co-host with me this morning, Kylie Baxter. Good morning. We are going to do it. Yes. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm. I have 11. Ooh. Oh, well, I'm sure we can keep do that as well. The challenge has been laid down. All right. I reckon we can do it, Kylie. Okay. So, just a quick reminder before we kick off, we are a CPA discussion group. So, you can get your CPE and CPD points for listening in. And of course, a reminder that as we kick off the conversation, that our intention is always to be positive, supportive, and collaborative, and have a little bit of fun along the way as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. So, of course, we'd love to hear from you where you're tuning in from. If you're on Clubhouse listening to us, pop into the chat where you're coming or listening from. We'd love to say hello. And of course, if you're out there listening on LinkedIn or YouTube or some of the other streaming platforms, of course, we can see your comments as well. So say hello. We would love you to pose any questions to us, talk to us about your experiences around our topics. We highly recommend that you do that, and we'd love to speak to you. But of course, if you're not keen to do that, there's chats and comments and things like that you can always get our attention with. All right, so let's kick off the room this morning. Are your staff a flight risk? 11 things that leaders do that make employees quit. All right, so it's very easy at the moment. Kylie, you mentioned the talent shortage. Very easy to get caught up in recruiting new staff, worrying about where we're going to get new staff, and all the drama that can come along with that. That sometimes we can forget about our existing employees, and particularly our loyal existing employees during that process. So the stat is that only a quarter of employees actually leave during their first year. So for the rest, yes, only, well, 25%. It's big. Okay. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. 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 No. That's 1 in 4. Now, that's because there's more obvious reasons around that stat, but for the rest, if we're talking about more longer serving employees, the reasons are often very deep rooted and complex, and they're the ones we're sort of focusing more on today. But what leadership mistakes are we making that could be making our staff unhappy is really what we're looking at. We want to be all about proactive and improving staff retention. So that's what we're having a squizzy at today. So with our staff shortage, you're right, Kylie, it's very easy to get so focused on trying to find these new staff that we forget about our current employees. And it goes without saying, whether it is in the first year or whether it's later, losing existing team members puts your team, yourself, your business under already, existing pressure. So puts you under more pressure. It can be demotivating, of course, and cause significant ripples throughout the whole practice. So, Kylie, you mentioned when someone leaves early, that's a big flag for everyone, right? Like, what's going on? No. No, generally not. Yes. Exactly. It is really all about learning. And I think if I just jump to my first 11 out of the 11 things that I've got here, number 1, assuming your staff are happy. You are right in the danger zone if you are assuming across the board everybody is happy. And a special danger in that are our non-squeaky wheels. So our team members that just come in, they do their work, and they go about their day. They don't really cause us any trouble. They just typically get on with performing their role very, very well, and seldom ever make a fuss if they say anything. So it can be really easy to assume that they're happy, especially if you've reviewed performance, remuneration, that sort of thing. What just seems like only a month or 3 months ago, and it seemed to be everyone was happy and they agreed, but there's still actually no guarantees in that. Is that, Kylie? Have you had that example happen? Mm, yeah. I don't know if you can be too much sometimes with this. Mm, mm, no. Yes, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? Particularly with, we know we talk a lot about the profile of people in the accounting industry. We do tend to be more reserved. And, we don't often like the spotlight. We don't like to be put on the spot. And, so thinking about how you craft those questions and the avenues for feedback, like you just said, Kyle, is really important. And you've just actually talked about the second thing that we shouldn't do is not asking questions. Number 2, yeah, we need to be asking questions or at least having regular touch bases. So something that I do regularly is that it's almost on a weekly basis, is that we have a regular workflow meeting, and then what I do is I meet with each employee after that. Now, it starts out as an operational, how you're going, do you need my help with anything specifically, those sorts of things. But then it goes into, just checking in, how you doing? And they're used to that happening every week. So I think that's something you could think about doing. I don't know. How do you go about these regular touch bases, Kylie? Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Mm, mm, mm-hmm, mm, mm-hmm, mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, look, that takes a little bit of practice, doesn't it, Kylie? I think, one, it takes a bit of time, and the realization that you've got to allocate some of that time to your team members. I think that's the biggest thing, the elephant in the room really is about, we're all busy. We've all got loads of work to do. We could literally sit at our desks plugging out work all day and never lift our heads. So when it comes to a role where you've got to manage staff, or are responsible for staff, or you're the owner of the business, we have to make time for this, don't we? No. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 They are. Yes. Yes. No, you hit on a very important point there. There is a generational gap. We are seeing, employees span 2 or 3 generations now. And, our employers might be in one generation and our team members in another, and maybe in more than, not the next one, the one over. So, yeah, that baby boomer generation, if you had a job and you got paid, that was a really good thing. Gen Xers even were similar, but they moved a little bit more towards the work-life balance. Gen Ys are all about impact and being part of a bigger thing. And then our further on from that, our Gen Zs and onwards, it's an entirely different ball game for them. It's about experience. They don't necessarily want to work the way we worked. Things have completely changed, and we've certainly seen the impact of COVID and our worldview shift dramatically as a result of that. So we got to think about those things. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Correct. So that goes back to you being just a stalker, Kylie, right? Yes. Yes. Hmm. Yes. Yes. Those things. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And you've hit on a very important point that I've discovered after managing and working with accountants for, I think it's probably good on 25 years. That we find it very easy to tell someone when something is not right, but we find it very hard to articulate if it's if we're asked, well, what's the right thing for us? So when you pose that question as, here's what I see, is that how you see it? If it's wrong, you'll find out very quickly. So there's tricks that I help administration people who have to manage accountants, which, we're tricky to manage, I'll give you that. How to phrase things, because we can find it very easy to go, no, don't do that. No, that's not quite right. Do this. But to ask the question, what would you like us to do? We find that difficult to answer. So, in the same way, you're posing, I see this. Is that right? You'll get a good response from that, Kylie. And I think that's served you well over the years. Hmm. Oh my gosh, 18 years. Yes. No. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So number 2 and 3 blend quite closely together, and I think we've effectively covered off number 3. So number 2 was not asking questions or having regular touch bases, and number 3 was not asking what they want professionally or personally, and actually taking the time to tease that out a little bit. So that's exactly what you were just talking about in how you phrase your questions, perhaps observing your team members and then putting it to them as to what you see. So, again, taking some time to make this an important part of your day or your week. Really important to do. Okay, so my number 4 is that everyone's package or salary package or employment package benefits doesn't need to be the same. One size doesn't fit all. Although in our accountant minds, we just like everything to be the same. It's easy to control when it's all the same, but it doesn't have to be the same, does it? Yes. 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 Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think there's all sorts of possibilities that can best suit those individual circumstances, and needs that they have. So, additional unpaid leave, car parking. Car parking can be a big one. I don't know if that happens around the world, but certainly here in Australia and even in regional environments, car parking is a big one. Income protection insurance, health benefits. A whole lot of other things. And if I go into my number 5, not offering remote work or flexible working arrangements. So there's another one. And again, there's been a whole lot of talk about this in the environment we're now working in after COVID. We were forced to go home, we were locked down, and out of that has come some really good things, I think, Kylie, and some really good let's say epiphany moments about, we actually don't all have to be in the office together at the same time to be productive. Yeah, okay. Mm, yeah, it's not true. No. Mm-hmm. Mm, mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Exactly. Yes, yes. So I love your, what was your saying that you said? Fair does not necessarily equal. Fabulous. So if you're tuning into us this morning, Kylie and I are talking about, are your staff a flight risk? 11 things that leaders do that make employees quit. In accounting, we cannot afford to have anybody quitting right now. We are desperately looking for talent, and it's becoming a very big, it's always been a bit of an issue for us for quite some time now. But we're up to number 5. Okay. And then number 6. So number 5 was just thinking about remote and flexible work arrangements. We have done another room on that previously. So if you want to go back and look for that, that's something you could have a listen to if that interests you. But of course, we'd love if you've got any questions for us, please pop them in the chat. Let us know. Turn your mic on. Come and talk to us. We very much welcome that if anyone wants to chat to us. All right. Number 6, clear professional paths for advancement. So I think again too, Kylie, we're busy, we're doing our work, we're getting all this client work done. And, it seems often we can be away thinking about, well, I know exactly where people are going. They go from graduate accountant to intermediate accountant to senior accountant to partner. And that's just what we expect people to do. That's what I did. So that's what I expect others to do. But how do we know even if that's right? Or have we communicated that to anybody? Yes. Yes. No. Yes. 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 Absolutely. And it's again just having those conversations, asking those questions. And I think if I think about the timing of when you start to think about this, I start it right at the interview stage. When I'm interviewing somebody, it's like, okay, look, who knows where you could go in this business? I'm just very open to the fact that I am open to the fact of whatever career path ends up working out for both of us. So I open that right up, and then automatically that employee's going, oh, that's a bit cool. I wonder what I do want then. And they might go away and think about it, or they may have some preconceived ideas that they will tell you straight up. But you've got to be open to that, ask the questions, look into it. Nothing is ever set in stone. You're not making promises. You're just saying, who knows where things could go. I'm open to a discussion. So I think don't be afraid to do that either. Yes. Yes. Mm. Mhm. 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 Yes. Yes, and I've been on this path thinking that's where I'm going, and you've not said anything about it, so looks like it's not happening, so I'm gonna go somewhere where I can make sure it does happen. And Oh, yes, communication. So it's all well and good to take some time to plan as well, but if you're not talking about it, then what's the difference? So I have seen this with a friend of mine in the industry, a senior accountant who had spoken to her employers about wanting to go the next step. What did partnership look like for her? And they didn't want to have the conversations with her. They just said no, that's not an option. They weren't ready to bend or flex in any particular way to look at some different options. So she left and she went and moved. And now, for an accountant in this environment, we're being quite sticky with our employers at the moment. So, we're not jumping around. That's not generally our nature. But I tell you what, when things like this get talked about and even promised and then just get left, that is the most demotivating thing you can do for an employee, I think, particularly someone that's got a little bit of a fire in their belly to do something more. Yes. Mm. Mm. Dangle, dangle here. Yes. Yes, yes. So, right in line with this is number 7, the personal development and growth plans. So, that's going even further into the specifics of what is the clear professional path. So, if we've talked about what the professional path is, well, then what are the skill sets that we need to learn? What are the milestones that we need to tick off? How do we know when we get there? So beneficial for both you as an employer to plan for this, to know what's happening, and of course as a motivation tool and to show the employee that you are really on the journey with them around this. So again, I think it's just being a little more specific about what it is and not just leaving it dangling out there, as you were just saying, Kylie. Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. you, Yes, yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I think that collaboration or asking your employee to be solution focused about this, to tell us what they need, then that's really going to show the initiative behind, yes, this is the right person. They're actually trying very hard and, putting some things down on the table that you can, like you said, guide, maybe just adjust slightly if they're a little bit off track with what you see as being an important skill to learn. And something that I know I've done in the past is particularly that step from senior accountant or manager into directorship or partner. And what are the different skill sets that are needed there? So that's something I know I've spent more time in. But as you're coming up through the ranks, I think these discussions, these touch points that we've talked about that you need to be having with your team is going to flesh most of that out anyway. And it doesn't have to be a set plan, down on your Excel spreadsheet and have it all written out that year year 1 and year 5, and whatever that looks like. And you don't have to get that involved. It's just these regular conversations, I think, but being a little more specific, rather than, well, you're a graduate now, you want to go to senior, what's that look like, and what are the skills, or what's the work that you need to be doing to reach that. Yes. Uh, yes. 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 That's it. Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yes. So the next one that hangs directly off of this is not offering regular training, or not being open to regular training, whether that's technical training or whether that's more the human skill, soft skill type training. I think, again, that's, very important. So not every firm offers something in house that is training, and then others are doing a whole lot in that area. But I think it's again that balance across what's offered and what you're open to. I mean, you can't have your team off training all of the time. There certainly has to be a balance, and it would be very easy, I'd imagine, Kylie, that they could literally be off training all of the time if you let them, or ask them to. Mm, okay. Yes. Hang on, when am I going to fit that in? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. You I was g No, there has to be a balance, and that's the commercial reality of what we do. So there is absolutely that balance. And again, going back to, fair might not be equal. It might be different for others, each employee. Yeah. 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 No. Yes. Yes, yes. And if we head into 9 and 10 out of 11, I've got leadership, I think is very, very important. The lack of leadership, or not necessarily even the lack of leadership, the lack of allocation of time to leadership, more so. And culture was the other one as well, there sitting at number 10. So, again, important things to think about if you are a business owner, if you are a manager. Um, how am I fronting up as a leader? What am I doing to show the team that I'm willing to do all of these things, or I'm charting my own career path, or I've got having conversations? What does that look like? So, I think, what is the example you're setting? Would be what I would think about, is something we could all look at in leadership. How do you see leadership, Kylie? It is hard. Yeah. Confronting. Yeah. 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 Me too. Yes. No. No. Yes. 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 Do whatever you want to do. Yeah. Monkey see, monkey do, right? Yes. Yeah. Mm, mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Absolutely. And I know as my approach is very similar, I am definitely lead by example, get my hands dirty. And I know that I have, as a practice manager, bridged that gap for a number of employers in the past. So think about the people that you have around you. If you are the owner, that, perhaps you do need somebody that has a slightly different style, that can communicate the expectations, that one on one you can decide with them who does what, and how that plays out. So you don't leave your employees wondering or guessing or making up what they think you're doing on a Friday afternoon when you're not there, So it is, yeah, it's very important. And that goes right into number 10, which is culture. And I think what we spoke about last week was that we can talk about our culture being one way, and then when an employee gets into the organization, turns out it's not that way. So the consistency of that, making sure that what we say we want or what we say we are doing, we are actually doing. So hand in hand, leadership and culture goes together. Yeah. 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 Yes, hopefully. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that, yes, exactly, knowing what that is, not specifically as such, but some at least way to be able to tell people about that. And of course, number 11, we close it in with we've been talking about number 11 right from the start, and it's communication. So yes, what a surprise. So if you are not communicating, if you are not taking the time to communicate, almost every point 1 through to 10 has been about communicating something, and talking about expectations, managing those expectations, regularly touching base with your employees. In the environment that we are in, and in any environment, losing a team member is a real issue for a business, regardless of what industry that we're in. But it's demotivating, it's distracting, it's a whole lot of things, and it's expensive. You just don't need it to happen. So there's all these small things that you can be thinking about doing. So communication, the lack of regular meetings, the lack of regular touch bases. Kylie does a lot of observing of her staff. Formal communication lines too is another one that I often come into firms, and there's no real formal communication of who do I speak to when this goes on. How do we communicate across the board all of team things like cultural, like leadership, like what are our expectations? So there's some stuff that can be worked on there, but communication is just so important, isn't it, Kylie? Yeah. 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 Mhm. Mhm. Perspective. Yeah. No. And well, they're the ones that become that 25% that leave in the first year, aren't they? So, because when they're not settled in. Yes. For those of you that look at the video for this, you should have seen Kylie's face. It was, it's very scary. Now, I'm just in closing out. We've done the 11 things, but what I want to talk about then is what happens when we recruit a new employee, we get somebody on board, but in order to recruit them, we've had to give them a fairly lucrative package, whether that's in benefits or in salary. And that package is more lucrative than perhaps existing team members at the same level or higher. Now, we're seeing that happen quite regularly now. So, what do we do there? We're talking about our loyal employees. We don't want them going anywhere. The worst thing for them would be to find out, well, the new guy's getting this. Why don't I get this? What do we do, Kylie? Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 That'll be corrected. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen loyalty bonuses used as well, something where you've been here 12 months, something extra happens. You've been here 3 years, something extra happens. Been here 5 years, 10 years, something else happens. Whether that is a particular one off bonus in, remuneration, or it's some other benefit that perhaps extra training, extra leave, what does that? So those loyalty bonuses too might be something that you might want to consider if you've got some, long-term employees and you just want to say thank you for hanging around. And I think that's important, just recognizing that it's a really good thing that they've been hanging around. And of course, another thing that we're seeing right now as well is direct approaches by either recruiters. That's been happening for years, but direct approaches by competitors now. So other accounting firms reaching out to our employees and saying, hey, we've got this. What do you think? So is that something that you've actually discussed with team members up front, Kylie, or has that happened? Ah, did you? Mm, mhm. Yeah, they've always done that. Mm. Or higher. Mm. Yes. Yes. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 And look, regardless, I think, of how fair, reasonable, communicative, um, good culture, leadership, all of that, how good we are as an employer, ultimately it's almost certain that we will lose people from time to time, and I think right back at the start you said, Kylie, that it's a learning experience for us, and that exit interview, and what can we learn from the experience, even if it's someone that is relocating because their spouse or children or something needs to move, and they would have never left you otherwise. There is still some very good intel that you can get on the exit of that employee, that might help you with keeping your other team members in a happy and good position with you, and keeping on going, right. So I know I've learned you're always going to get very honest and open answers as someone's on their way out. So I use exit interviews everywhere, and would encourage anybody to do that. So, Kylie, have you used these in the past? Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think if we sum up very quickly around, are your staff a flight risk? I think it's just really important to make sure that you don't end up in the regrettable position of leaving stones unturned. You want to turn them over. You want to be talking to your team members, talking, touching base, observing, all of those things that we've been talking about, learning what you need to learn, and perhaps, involving a little more flexibility or open mindedness in perhaps what you thought, be a little bit more collaborative around, what your employees what need and what you need as a business owner. As a business owner, we need employees and we need team members. So these are all important things to do. We do. We can't do it on our own. And a lot of us don't want to do it on our own. I certainly don't want to do it on my own. I would like people around me, because I know I can do such greater things with some great people around me, and I'm sure that that goes for almost everybody. Yeah. Any final comments, Kylie? Gosh, that we managed to go through a whole lot there. No. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agree wholeheartedly. The first thing I do when someone resigns or hands in a resignation is congratulate them on their new opportunity. And then that flows through to the rest of the team. So, really, really important that you take on that viewpoint. Perfect. 100% agree, Kylie. Well done. All right. Next week, we are back again next week. Of course, we are. Wednesday, 28th of September, 7 a.m. We'll be talking about why giving and receiving of effective feedback is so hard. So, well, we'll like to see. Well, it's that's right. I'm good at the giving. I can be, a little bit funny about the receiving sometimes. So I can always stretch my muscles and exercise my muscles on the receiving side of things. So I have to catch myself out there. So yeah, but there's a lot of tips around this, and why it's so important. And so we're going to delve into feedback. And of course, it comes off this series of things we've been talking about employees, what it is, to be an employer brand. That was last week. And of course, are our loyal staff flight risks today. And now we talked about communication a lot today. And of course, now we're going to follow that up with giving and receiving of effective feedback. So please, we'd love you all to tune in again next week. Thank you for joining us this morning. And wherever you're listening in from, we hope you enjoyed the conversation. And please, if you want to reach out to Kylie and myself, the easiest spot to find me is LinkedIn. Message me on LinkedIn. Kylie, you too? LinkedIn? Excellent. So we'd love to chat to you. We'd love to hear your ideas. We'd love to get your feedback. And we will take that very graciously, regardless of what it is. So, yes, thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful week.